And I will try to give you answers that may or not be true. But maybe we'll have some information or a laugh or two or something like that. And I'll sit here for a moment, and then I'll wander over there, and then I'll wander over there, and then I'll look up at the sky. Look at that, that's wonderful. Oh, hi. Okay, so are we prepared to ask a question? Like, well, yeah, I know you are, but I mean, is there a microphone set up?
Yeah.
Right. Oh, perfect. Got it. What are you doing here? Okay, go.
Welcome back to St. Louis, Mr. Shatner.
Thank you. I wanted to get to eat the barbecue here, but I didn't have.
Also, try the toasted raviolis. You want to get those?
I'm going to get on an airplane. Where do you get the ravioli?
Toasted raviolis on the hill. Any restaurant on there. The Italian restaurants have them.
Well, what about Sammy's, Danny's, Pappy's?
Pappy's, that's barbecue.
Is it on the way to the airport? Can I stop off and get some to go?
You tell the cab to take you there, they'll take you there.
Really?
My question for you, though, is...
My question for you is the barbecue for St. Louis better than the one in Kansas City?
Yeah!
Of course. But is it sweeter? Is that the idea? It's sweeter? Is it better?
Of course it's better.
That wasn't unified. This was not a unified. Go ahead, what's your question?
Actually, I want to ask you about Third Rock from the Sun. What was the most enjoyable part you had playing the big giant head?
Is he like the greatest actor? Is he like wonderful?
Well, me?
What?
You talking about me?
I'm talking about
The big giant head.
John Lithgow.
He's great.
No, John Lithgow is like one of the great actors, and I've admired him for so long. He played Broadway musicals. He's got like a great singing voice, and he's this tall, that's why they call him Lithgow. And or is it Life? Maybe it's Lithgow. We don't know. He's not here to answer the questions. We don't know. He could be John Life, the Lithgow. We don't know. Great actor. So I loved him. I loved being with him. The best moment on that show. What's the name of the wrestler? The girl that was on the show. No, there was a big China. She was. You can talk about how long it ran and all those wonderful actors, but China. Then there was an April Fool's joke that John insisted that we play on April 1st. Somehow I was there at the studio filming on April 1st, and he said, let's do an April 1st joke. We come in arguing. Come into the stage like, no, I'm not going. John, that's the worst idea I've ever had. I gotta get off this lousy show. And you notice how quiet you were? That's how quiet the executives were. The joke fell absolutely flat. Everybody went running for their phones, saying Lithgow and Shatner are fighting. That's all I needed. And George Takei was just having a great time. Rubbing his hands in. What else do you want to know?
Oh, we got plenty of other people when I ask you questions. Welcome to St. Louis, try the T-Rex.
Thanks. Next question.
Oh, sorry. One, I want to thank you for coming, and it was nice to meet you when I got your autograph yesterday, and it was great. It was good. It was nice of you to come. And can I say something? I don't know why I keep saying
You can say as many times.
Okay. Anyway,
Say See, what does is gives you time to think.
One second. Funny. I was actually reading your Up Till Now book while I was waiting for the panel to start.
How old are you?
12. It was very good. The tribute to your wife was nice. Anyway,
You know, Leonard Nimoy plays Spock.
Yeah.
So I said to Leonard, because I thought they kind of shot Spock in that movie. They got him in there. And I said to Leonard, you know when you're old, when you go back in time, and you're still old. Okay? They didn't have to use old age makeup on him. He was just... So the question was, see, I played, you're 12.
Yeah.
I've got ties older than you. That's the oldest joke in the world. Okay. I haven't changed my socks in 12 years. No, that's bad. Okay. So many years ago, I played the part of Captain Kirk.
And I know you did his death scene in Star Trek Generations, which not many fans here are happy with. That's not getting a lot of
Jordan, when do you come to an Okay, so here's what happened. Okay, now Jordan, you have to be quiet just for a moment here. So, and on that Star Trek movie, I think it was 6, the producers said, we're going to kill Captain Kirk. Will you stop laughing a moment so I can Star Trek 7. You're wrong. It's 6, okay? I knew it all along. Smart aleck kid. Thing is, he's getting the better of all this, and that's not so good. So the producers said, we're going to kill Captain Kirk. And I said, kill Captain Kirk? That's the worst news I've ever had. They said, well, do you want to be part of it? And I said, yes. So I had to die. The character had to die. What are you doing, Jordan? Are you listening, or are you trying to be smart?
I was nodding my head in
Okay, I'm going to give you an answer to your question. Okay? Just be quiet, be patient. Okay, sit down, attaboy, rest. There you go. Lie down. There you go. Okay. So when I got the script and the character dies, I started writing a book about how the character lives. And by the time I died, I handed the book, the outline of the book, to the producers, saying, here's how I could come back to life. But they had a better idea, which was to put the next generation into the movies, because our box office was always about $100 million. Every time the movie went out, we made $100 million. That was it. Like a limited number of people came to see the movies. So they knew if they could make the movies for $30 million, they would make a profit at $100 million, but it never got better than $100 million. So I wrote a book, which I called The Return, in which I came back to life. So I had a whole plot ready. And I literally died, and then I got up out of the scene, and I said to the producer who I knew was doing the movies, here's a way of bringing me back to life. Well, they didn't want to bring me back to life. They were done. That was it. And so the book was published, and it was fairly successful. But that was my idea, that Spock finds my spirit and brings me back to life. That was how it was going to happen. Jordan, your moment in the sun is over. Okay? Jordan, no, Jordan, you have to accept the fact. That's it. Puppies and children, the same thing. Yeah, it's the same thing. You know, I brought up 3 girls and now grandchildren whom I can't bring up enough. They just, their mothers and fathers are very protective. But puppies, I had puppies. So my wife Elizabeth and I bred our old dog to a Doberman bitch, excuse me, and we had a litter of puppies in Texas, and then Elizabeth and I flew to Texas and picked out 2 female puppies, and They were 8 weeks old. We rented a car and drove from Austin, Texas to Los Angeles with 2 little puppies in the back. It took us 3 days. And the adventures on that. I mean, you know, they have rest areas on the freeways. And is that Jordan? They have rest areas, and every rest area has its own character. And with puppies, they gotta go all the time. So we stopped at rest areas, and they were awful. I mean, they had cactus in the grass, so the puppies couldn't walk. Or they had strange vegetables that they would eat. They even had a sign. They were running around, and there was a sign: "Beware of rattlesnakes." I mean, it was just awful. Where we could take them. Finally, we got the puppies home, and about 3 months into it, one of the puppies got ill, and so ill that we tried everything medically to try and save her. We couldn't save her. So Mocha died about 2 months ago. Espresso lives and is a great puppy. But the puppies, like children, I think, you need to be stern with love. Not stern, but firm with love. But there's a lot of hands-on with puppies. No, sit down, baby, calm down. And you're using loving hands on them. So I think verbally, you can use verbal loving hands on children. Sit down, Jordan, lie down. Next question.
What's it like being the actor who plays James Tiberius Kirk?
It's terrific. So cool. Chris Hadfield is the Canadian astronaut who flew in one of the missions just the last few months. So he calls me, or his representatives. Would I like to talk to him while he's crossing Los Angeles I don't think he was in the shuttle. What was it?
Space station.
What was it? Space station. He was in the space station. So he was in the space station, and he had about a 10-minute window from when the antenna could pick him up until he crossed over the Los Angeles. So they asked me if I would like to interview him, because I've been doing a number of interviews of late. I love to talk to people and find out what they're like and who their lives are and who people are. So I've been doing a number of that. I did a series called Raw Nerve, and thank you. And I talked to people. It's a marvelous experience. And then I've been doing something I call brown bag wine tasting, which I walk around with a bottle of wine and have a conversation. So here I have a sip of wine. So I'm a man on the street and just having a great time with that. So I'm out there like I know what I'm doing when I'm talking to you. So Chris Hadfield is coming across, and I did a little research on Chris Hadfield, the astronaut. Turns out he's a test pilot, and he loves to think about. He's like a philosophy minor or something in school, but a test pilot. So I didn't want to ask him, how are you, what's happening, what's it like to be floating in space. I said to him as he came over, I said, do you see a plan? Is there a plan out there, out in the darkness of space? Do you see a plan? Well, we began to talk about what he sees, what his faith is, what he's, as a scientist, what he can do as a scientist, what belief system he has. And then I said, as a test pilot, you must have faced fear so often. What do you do when you're afraid? When you're flying straight down, you don't know whether the wings are going to hold or not. What do you do when you're afraid? And as he gave his answers, of course, had 10 minutes and he disappeared. So as a result of that, I'm going to go visit with him in Hawaii in about 4 weeks and be on stage with him and talk with him somewhat like this in Hawaii in about 4 weeks. And yeah, cool. To talk to, we ordinary people have to imagine what it must be like to be sitting in the space shuttle, we're looking up, and there's liquid oxygen and nitrogen underneath you. And there have been accidents, and there have been accidents that shouldn't have been, and there are accidents they didn't know. But their life is on edge the whole time they're up there. Anything could go wrong. I mean, once you're up there, that's half the battle. Now you have to get back. So, that's a direct result of having played the part of Captain Kirk. I've given the opportunity not only just to hear you and speak with you and have the fun of that, but to speak to people like Chris Hadfield, an astronaut who's really finding out things about science that we'll only learn about and use in the years to come. That's how cool being Captain Kirk is. Okay.
Hi.
That's all right.
Don't mind me.
You want to sit down with Jordan?
Oh no, I'm good. Well, I actually have 2 questions.
Well, one will do.